Got him. Got that fish. He ain't a big one, but he's a fish. By golly, little spinnerbait bass. I mean a little spinnerbait bass, folks. Look at that little guy. Hopefully we can catch bigger fish than that today. We're at Fool's Hollow Lake here in beautiful Show Low, Arizona, and I'll tell you what, I love this lake. I grew up on this lake, and we're up here in the White Mountains, and I normally don't even get on the water this time of year. Up here, it's getting cold. There was ice on the windshields this morning, and I thought, man, the water temperature's got to be cooling down good enough to where maybe a good spinnerbait bite or something like that might work good. The last time I was on this lake, I'd fished a Bass Club Championship and won it. Had 12 pounds of bass. I was actually drop shotting and throwing some wacky Cincos. But in saying that, I want to see if we can catch something on this spinnerbait. Today I'm throwing that Persuader spinnerbait. I persuaded that fish to bite, so you know it's got that little lead chip. And we've done shows on this bait, but I went to the chartreuse and white because the waters, we've had a lot of rain up here in the White Mountains. And so we've had a lot of, our waters are dingying up a little bit. We got a little bit of breeze, perfect for the spinnerbait. And I've been waiting for this. And then I got my little grub tail on there, which he kind of chopped off a little bit. We'll put a new one on, but that little lead chip right there with this Persuader spinnerbait is an awesome little ticket for fishing weeds, stumps, you know, anytime you're fishing this bait, because anytime you either stop it, pause it, twitch it, or it hits something, there's a little BB in there that hits the back of a chip, and it pulsates little action in the, or you know, sound waves in that thing to where you get the noise of maybe an injured fish or something like that. So it's really an awesome little deal that they've put on this spinnerbait, because it's fun to have a little bit of rattle. And then we're going to go with maximum flash, which you can see what I've got here. One silver, one gold blade, and it's hammered on the end a little bit because I want maximum flash. Like I said, the water's not muddy, but it's dingy. So if it was really muddy, I'd probably go with maybe, you know, all gold or something like that. But I like the combination of the silver and gold blades here in the White Mountains. It works really good. We have a lot of bluegill, no shad. So in saying that, I like to throw something with a little chartreuse in it. There's smallmouth in this lake, largemouth, walleye. I'm amazed we haven't caught a walleye yet. And then some pike too, pike they're trying to get out of the lake. But the walleye, man, I'll tell you what, this is the time of year, believe it or not, we're at the last week of October, and this is the time of year when the water starts cooling down, when these walleye will actually start getting active, and you can start catching them as well. And if it's a state record you're looking for, here in the beautiful White Mountains, that's the place to get it, because Show Low Lake and Fool's Hollow both have giant walleye for our state here. And I think we hold the record, as a matter of fact. But in saying that, I'm throwing this on a medium heavy Johnny Moore's Carbon Light rod, and of course I'm using a 6.4-to-1 ratio reel, and I'm slow rolling it. The Johnny Moore Signature Series reel, I love it, and you got to throw this on 17-pound test line, or at least 14. Fluorocarbon line. Some guys like to use braid, but I like the fluorocarbon. It's virtually invisible. I don't know if it really matters, but it matters here. And that's the one thing to always remember about your fishing, is you got to have confidence in the tackle and the things that you're throwing, because if you don't have confidence, it's hard to catch fish on it. You know, it's you got to have that confidence. My confidence goes with the fluorocarbon for this technique, and I love the braid when I'm throwing a buzzbait. But in saying that, I don't know about that line coming through the water and the fish seeing it. I don't know. It just does something for me. And I know a lot of guys at home are saying, we throw it on braid. And that's fine. If it's working for you, do it, because there's nothing wrong with it, because you're actually throwing a reaction bait. So in saying that, we're throwing a reaction bait, it means the bait's moving constantly, or it's twitching, or it's doing something where the fish just kind of has to focus in on the bait instead of focusing in on your line. You have that kind of stuff going on, and I'll tell you what, you'll probably catch a lot more fish if you like braid versus fluorocarbon, but I like the fluorocarbon. I'll tell you what, Fool's Hollow Lake, here almost going into winter, it's just warmed up enough for me to take off my sweatshirt, and we'll see if we can't catch you a few bass right here. Always pays to have a few baits out on the deck of your boat, because you could go by in areas like this and you want to slow down and fish it a little bit before you move on. What I've got on right now is a little wacky Cinco. I'm trying to, hopefully I can catch something out from underneath the docks, but I don't like to pass the docks up, so I'll kind of hit the edges that I think the fish might be in. And a lot of times this time of year, if you're in a situation where you're not catching them on a jig, a Cinco or a drop shot or anything like that, you have to almost catch them on a reaction. Throw that spinner bait or crankbait or something like that. It'd be a little tough to throw the crankbait in this little area here because we're in a lot of weeds. It doesn't matter what time of year you're fishing. If you've got glass in the morning, things like that, and you're worming and fishing's kind of slow, when the wind starts picking up like this and rippling the top of the water, don't be afraid to pick up a reaction bait, spinner bait, crankbait, because I'll tell you what, these fish can turn on in just a moment's notice. In the championship that I came and fished, I didn't get a chance to practice at all. And what ended up happening is I had absolutely no fish at 10 o'clock. The wind started blowing, it made the fish more active. And when the wind started blowing, I started catching fish. So it does help sometimes. So don't ever get too discouraged about having some wind. A lot of people don't like wind, and there's times it's just blowing so hard it's almost tough to fish, but wind can be your friend. Hey folks, for my tip of the week, I think one thing real important when you're fishing a lot of weeds and you're throwing a spinnerbait is your spinnerbait blades sometimes are going to get caught in those weeds. And a lot of folks, I've seen them, they reel in and they get caught in the weeds and they go, oh, I'm stuck, and they just start reeling. But let me tell you something. Sometimes you can initiate a strike by popping your bait loose from the weeds. So let's say you get hung up in a weed or something like that, just pop your bait really hard like that, pop it again, just try to get the weed off if you can see the bait and pop it. And a lot of times popping it off the weed like that will initiate a strike and you'll catch a fish right after popping yourself off the weeds. So I'll tell you what, I've caught a lot of fish doing that, and if you learn how to do that, it might help you catch some more fish. Talk about throwing everything but the kitchen sink in on them. Sometimes the fishing can just be tough, and you got to deal with it. You got to try everything. I've thrown everything at these fish. I've tried different depths, and sometimes the fishing can be tough, but make no mistake, there's some big fish in this lake. Like I said, my cousin and I won a tournament here about a month ago, the last tournament of the Bass Club, but the water's getting cold. It looks like there might be a slight turnover happening. We're having our nights freeze on us up here now, and make no mistake, when these fish are going during the fall, topwater can be a lot of fun as well. And one of my favorite baits is that Rico, and man, the smallmouth will come after that bait sometimes and just crush it. I've had fish come after my bait 2-3 times before they've taken it. So I've had a lot of fun on this lake. And you go to a lake like this, if you're not, here's the cool thing about living up in the White Mountains. We've stayed here all day, but the real cool thing about living here is the fact that if you're not catching fish on this lake, you're 5 minutes away from more lakes. You got Show Low Lake, which is a great fun lake to fish if you like walleye, smallmouth bass fishing. They've got largemouth in there too. Rainbow Lake, one of the places I grew up, and it's not too far from here. I think it's about 5 or 6 miles from here. And you could be on that lake bass fishing or trout fishing there as well. And it offers a wide variety of different looks as far as, you've got docks and weeds at Rainbow Lake. Here you've got a little bit more deeper structure you can fish. But Rainbow Lake, by far, is another great lake. And the White Mountain Bass Club even hits that one, along with Willow Springs. But I'll tell you what, Willow Springs, Rainbow Lake, Fool's Hollow Lake, these lakes are a lot of fun to fish for bass if you love bass fishing. And the Bass Club even went to Show Low Lake this year and we had a lot of fun. But finding out that there's a lot more smallmouth in there than we thought. So, we're catching some smallies in there and walleye. But you can definitely get up here and catch a lot of fish. Topwaters, spinnerbaits, drop shots. Senkos are huge on these waters. Senkos, you know, anything weightless, like a weightless lizard, that used to be my bread and butter on these lakes up here because a lot of them are shallow. Rainbow Lake's 13 feet deep at its deepest. And, you know, I get a lot of questions asked me, can you take a big boat out? Well, you see me bring the big boat out. It's not because I'm special. You can bring your big boat out. You just can't run the big motor. You know, I like bringing, the Bass Club loves using our bass boats because we have live wells that work, keep the fish alive, we keep them, you know, everything really good there. Something jumped right there. But we keep the fish alive and well. The other thing is that at the end of the day, my ankles aren't killing me from the boat rocking back and forth like it used to on the 14-foot aluminum or something. So use a trolling motor all day, make sure your batteries are charged and you'll be just fine. And I'll tell you what, you can come up here and have a lot of fun here in the White Mountains. Oh, that's a monster. Oh, that's a monster. Oh, that's a good fish, folks. This could take a minute, man. I'm using 6-pound test line with some braid here. Oh, look at that fish. Oh my goodness. That's a big smallmouth, folks. Big smallmouth. This is where having your drag set really means a lot. And I ain't letting this thing jump around. We're getting this thing to the boat. This is a big fish here. Here he comes. Here he comes. Oh, look at that fish. That's a nice smallmouth. I gotta get everything out the way. Oh. Easy does it. Don't you jump on me. Come on. You gotta play these out, man. You gotta, they have shoulders here at Fool's Hollow, let me tell you. Oh man, that's a nice fish. I got him hooked. Right on the lip. Come on, baby. Don't jump. Don't jump. Come on. Come on. Yeah! Little jump shot bass. Pulled out that quail tail. It has been tough today. Tough on this lake. I might have figured a little something out though. Look at that fish. Isn't she beautiful? Beautiful smallmouth bass right there. That's a 2.5 pounder right there. It's a chunk. That is a chunk. Beautiful fish. We'll let it go. Look how fat that fish is. See, these fish are footballs here. Just footballs. Look how fat that fish is. It's unbelievable. All right. Well, the fish still seem to be hanging out in the areas where I won that last tournament a month ago. But what we had to do was go out deep, and it's been tough. I've been spinnerbaiting this lake. I've been all over this lake. And I really thought that bite would turn on, and it hasn't. And this lake can be finicky like that. You know, the lake dirtied up. We've had a lot of rain. We had a little breeze. I thought that would really turn the spinnerbait fishing on, and it just didn't do it. And so, what else do? You know, you go to that. I'm going to go to what I won that tournament on, which was drop shotting and the wacky Senko. And that was a really nice fish. I'm here at the dam area at Fool Hollow Lake, and I'll tell you, one of the reasons I had to play that game a little bit smart was because here's what I'm throwing is this 6.5 foot rod, obviously. Actually it's a 7 foot rod, sorry, 7.2, and medium action. And I'm throwing a braid, and with that braid, it's a 10-pound braid with a 6-pound leader on it, and you can see my leader there, but it's fluorocarbon, and I'm using the fluorocarbon leader. Just tied this thing up, and I thought, man, I got to give it a shot. Now, of course, the ticket is, check this out. my little quail tail worm made by Cactus Wren Outdoors, and this is what I caught him on in a tournament as well. And so that little curl-tail worm is just awesome. The color of it is scorpion. That's the color that they call this, is the scorpion worm. They put their own scent in it, so you don't have to worry about spraying scent in all the time. So they're impregnated with the scent, and it's just a good, soft, good drop shot worm. And that's pretty much what I was throwing and what I'm throwing now. But we definitely, it's been tough. It's been a tough day trying to figure out what these fish are doing, and I refused to go home. I wasn't quite sure if we had a fall turnover going over here or what, because usually you smell the fall turnover. In other words, when the hot water meets the cold and the lake flips, it'll flip some of the mud off the bottom, and you'll get a little bit of stink, and that's how you kind of know. And if it's doing that, you might be better off just pulling up and going to another lake at that point for a couple of weeks. But a lot of our lakes in Arizona, don't really do that. But our lakes up here in the White Mountains will do that, because I mean, we go from 70 or let's just say 85-degree water temperatures down to freezing days. So snow. So these lakes will flip. So you have to be real careful with that. And I thought, man, maybe we're on that part of it. It could be just starting to turn. I don't know. One other big hint I can give you about fishing in the White Mountains is to stay with colors that are your crawdad colors or your frog colors. Remember, we don't have shad, so I like the purples, the browns, those types of colors, like with my quail tail or my jigs. If you're gonna throw the spinnerbait, white spinnerbaits work great with a little color to them, like maybe a little chartreuse in them or something like that, where they more imitate the trout or something like that, or the bluegill. And you'll catch a lot more fish here in the White Mountains with those colors. Fool's Hollow Lake and the White Mountain lakes are a lot of fun to fish. They can be tough, however, but remember that when October gets to the White Mountains, it's about trout weather, and the water temperature cools down so much, and it gets harder and harder to catch those fish. As a matter of fact, our bass club starts the end of April and goes to the 1st of October. After that, over the years, we've learned that it's just gotten so it's tougher to catch fish. It's not that you can't do it, it's just a lot tougher. We came out to Fool's Hollow Lake and actually caught some fish out there for you at the end of October. And by then, I usually don't even fish those lakes up there for bass. You start going for the trout at that point because the water just gets so cold. We start hitting freezing temperatures at home, and a lot of times we get our first snow, here on the mountain, my goodness, right around Halloween. So, it can get a lot tougher. And that's when you can come down to the lower lakes and actually still be throwing your topwaters and your buzz baits, and they're into a fall, feeding frenzy like you wouldn't believe. So I actually enjoy coming down to the lower lakes and having a lot of fun, still being able to throw topwater and had a lot of fun with the bass down here, starting at Roosevelt on down. But I can tell you, that's my biggest ticket that I can tell you, because I get a lot of folks that ask me, and they'll call me in March, or they'll email me in March and February, hey, I'm coming up to do some bass fishing, where's a good place to go? I'm not gonna tell you can't catch them because they're in the lakes, but I'm telling you right now, the best time to catch those fish, if you wanna come up and bass fish in the beautiful White Mountains, is April to about October 1st in that neighborhood, maybe the 15th of October in that neighborhood. And then of course, don't forget walleye fishing as well. Fool's Hollow, Shoalo Lake, if you want to catch a state record walleye, a lot of times it happens in November when the water really gets cold. So that's something else to think about. But definitely, without a doubt, remember that April to October is about your best time to fish these upper lakes.